Welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures That Outperform. I'm Frank Wander, founder and CEO of People Productive, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Terry Mays, who is a certified culture engineer and an expert on the human side of business. So if you watched our last episode, we talked about being your authentic self. Today, as promised, we're going to talk about being an authentic leader. Authenticity is incredibly important. If you watch the last episode, you know how important it is to be an authentic individual. But for leaders, it's even more important because people have to follow you. They have to trust you. They have to take direction from you. And the reality is, if you're not authentic, they're not going to trust you. And if they don't trust you, you really have an unsafe culture. And that is a significant problem. And so all the things we talked about last week for individuals are true, but for leadership, it's an even bigger responsibility. I think there are just so many inauthentic leaders around. And hopefully you've watched some of the episodes like vulnerability and other things we've talked about, because being a vulnerable leader is super important if you want to be authentic. And you've got to be sincere and honest, which is a huge responsibility when you talk about leadership and the information that you have to share with people from time to time. So, Tara, I'm going to turn that over to you now to continue the conversation.
Yes. So I think authentic leaders really have a good, strong sense of purpose. They understand what needs to be done and why they're doing what they're doing. They're not just mindlessly doing things that don't matter or
Yeah.
wasting time on activities that don't matter. They really have that solid sense of purpose, and then they have the underlying values that guide them so that they're able to get done what they need to get done in an ethical way, right? So
Mhm.
you cannot be unethical and authentic at the same time.
Yeah.
Really gonna
True.
you're gonna show yourself to be one or the other. You really do have to focus in on making sure you're doing the right things the right way. So real authentic leaders have a true sense of value where they will not just do anything for the money, that they won't cut corners. They won't just do things any kind of way just to get by. They're really solid people. People that are authentic tend to be more kind of solid foundationally. They're
Mhm.
rooted and grounded. They're not, just kind of fly by night, will do anything kind of people. They tend to have a real strong sense of who they are. And as a result, there are things that they will do and things that they won't do. And as a leader, you have to have that set of core values because there will be opportunities that will challenge you one way or the other to go in ways that are not true to who you are, to do things that are not according to the way that you want to be known. So everybody is writing a story. We're all writing a story with our life. And we have to pay attention to those stories that we're writing, the things that we're saying, the things that we're doing are leaving an imprint on the people around us. So we have to make sure that we're doing those things that are honorable and that we are authentic. We are being open and honest with people, and we're valuing their input. And in those types of relationships that you're building with people, it just helps grow the team. So as a leader, you're building those relationships with the people that are on the team, and then it helps strengthen that foundation. It
And for
strengthens the
leaders,
foundation of the team, and it provides a safe place for people to grow and to thrive.
and and I was just going to chime in. I didn't realize I was cutting you off there. But for leaders, that's so important, right? Because when you think of the number of relationships that leaders have, they have a boss, they have leadership peers, they're part of a leadership team, they have subordinates, and so they have their own organization. All of these people, are going to build better relationships with you if you're authentic. I've seen many people struggle due to lack of authenticity because they were unable to build strong relationships with peers. Peers didn't really trust them. And you have to work across an organization in order to get things done as a leader. And authenticity helps you do that because people trust you. They feel you're comfortable to be around. Um, leaders oftentimes have to share difficult messages. And authentic leaders that people trust are able to do that and deliver that message in a way that people can understand it. They may not like it, but they'll accept it. And they're going to understand that that person is telling them the truth. And I think that's so important that you are sincere and authentic and act with integrity at all times as a leader, because when the going gets tough, that is a very valuable tool set to have at your disposal, that you can actually really help shape people's thoughts and opinions about what's happening by delivering the news in a very authentic way to them because they trust you. And so leaders have more responsibility. Authenticity matters for everyone, but you can't be an effective leader if you're not authentic. You can be deceptive for a time and maybe do very well for a short period of time, but it's going to catch up to you. And you need to have that authenticity. You've got to have that self-awareness at all times so that people know they could trust you. And it matters more for leadership than almost anything, I think.
Yeah. There's a certain level of transparency you can have when you're authentic. People tend to be more open and honest. They're not keeping secrets. So you
Mhm.
were talking about delivering bad news. Sometimes, it's inevitable as a leader. You're going to have some difficult conversations, talk about things that you may not necessarily want to talk about. But
Mhm.
when you've been open and transparent with people, they tend to receive it better because they know you as an individual and they know that you're not the kind of person that's just trying to tear them down
Yeah.
or keep them under your thumb. That kind of dictatorship type style leadership is just really not a very helpful style of leadership. So when people have to deliver bad news, it almost always goes horribly wrong because they're receiving it from this dictator versus from
Yeah.
someone who's open and honest all the time. So when it's time to talk about something difficult, it's just easier to hear it. It's just easier. You may still not like it, right? So it's still a hard conversation. It's still things that you don't want to talk about, but you can at least receive it from a well intended person. I think
Yeah.
that's the core of sometimes how things go off the rails is you don't see that other person as a intentioned person. Their intentions are to harm me and not to help me.
Mhm.
So when you start seeing people that way, it becomes increasingly difficult to receive instruction and information from them. But authentic leaders know how to make sure that they are coming across that way as the person that's trying to help, that's
Mhm.
always trying to help no matter what.
And authentic leaders are authentically embracing the goals of the organization. They're a team player. They understand where the organization's going, and they'll speak their mind with leaders if they disagree with some of the things that are going in. But once the decision's been made, they're going to support it and they're going to give their all because they're going to try to help their team bring those goals and objectives over the goal line because that's what they've been asked to do. And they're going to authentically embrace what it is that has to get done. They're not going to be, talking, behind the back of the leadership,
Right.
undermining people, doing things that really are very negative for the organization. They build positive cultures, authentic leaders. They build great relationships. So they have cultures that people want to work in.
Yeah.
And that's why authenticity is just so important because it helps an organization to actually thrive over time. That authenticity pays dividends. And every leader needs to really understand who they are, what they believe, and they need to act on those principles they believe in. And that consistency, that people know you stand for certain things and are consistently behaving in that way, means they're comfortable around you. They know what you're going to do. You're not going to surprise them by being out of character. Authentic people really don't behave out of character. People understand who they are, what they stand for, and know that they're going to act with integrity and they're going to rely on their principles as they carry out their duties in the organization.
Yeah. There's a high sense of self discipline. So you're not
Mhm.
just relying on the discipline of others to get by, but you yourself have a great sense of self discipline. You're able to do the things, the hard things, have the hard conversations, do the hard work. Sometimes that requires coming in a little bit earlier and staying a little bit later.
Mhm.
Really being able to discipline yourself so that you're able to be a good leader, to be authentic in your leadership and not just, you know, doing whatever and people seeing it and you not care about it. You're a caring leader when you're authentic.
Yeah.
Take time to really pay attention to what you do as well as what others are doing so that you can help the environment be one that's a place where people can thrive.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Authenticity as a leader carries over to other aspects of leadership. If you're very authentic, people are more likely to listen to your feedback. You'll be good at giving feedback because you're self-aware. You care about the other individuals. They tend to be caring in nature, and your feedback is not going to be rejected. It's more likely to be listened to, not necessarily embraced. Right? You don't know who you're dealing with, but feedback is going to be easier to take from people that are authentic because they're not trying to game the system. That authenticity means they're really trying to help the other person. Their feedback is coming from a positive viewpoint.
Yeah.
And so leadership authenticity really matters. It's super important. You should always dig in, try to understand who you are, what you believe, what your principles are. You should act on those and lead from that strong foundation.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, hope you've enjoyed this. We haven't picked a topic yet for next week's episode, so Terry and I are going to have to chat and figure out what we want to cover. We've got a list of topics that are on deck, so we have to figure out what would be most interesting and whether we start another series, which we've been talking about. We like doing series.
Yeah.
But authenticity, I hope you found real value in this. Can always find us at the People Productive channel. You can see all our past episodes. We've done, oh God, I think over 150 shows, Terry. Could be, right?
Yeah.
More.
It's a lot. We've been doing this almost 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it's probably getting close to 4 years. I mean, amazing amount of episodes. Unproductive, great series. We did incredible series on belonging. What is it? And these are all very important topics, actually, because in the new world of work, people are the most important tool in every company, and leadership is really, for the most part, still an outgrowth of the industrial era. Leadership has not caught up with this digital era, which is much more human, where humans are the most important tool in every company. So these human factors of leadership are really the key to building a thriving organization in this 21st century. And so tune in, listen to all of them. This is a real education.
Yes.
So listen, we're here every Wednesday at 3:00 Eastern. I hope you could join us for the next episode. And I thank you for tuning in.